Synthplex Burbank numero uno. In case you're wondering what I'm talking about, Synthplex was an event hosted here in Los Angeles. Well, technically Burbank's just, not too far from here at all. It was focused on Eurorack and MIDI controllers, plugins, synthesizers, modular stuff. Basically anything involved to make music, like a well-curated NAMM. I was there working on behalf of Novation, as I am at most of these events, but on my lunch breaks I took some time to run around and check a couple things out, so here's what I found that was pretty interesting. First up, the most interesting thing, by far for me especially, is the Black Box by EnriqueMMusic. You may be familiar with his Eurorack modules, but this is his first foray into a standalone thing. And one thing that I thought was instantly cool was that he's keeping the price of this, which is standalone, at the same price as what his modules cost, $5.99. So you're probably wondering by now, what the hell do you get for $5.99? Well, it's a really long list. The real question here is, what don't you get? For starters, it has an audio input, it's a sampler, it's a touchscreen, it's tiny, can be powered off USB, aka a battery pack, has a song mode, has near unquantized recording, it's a USB host, which means you can plug in any controller to this thing and utilize it. It has multiple outputs, an SD card slot for who knows what, slicing, one-shots, looping, effects, and this list goes on because this mad scientist right here, Aaron, the founder or owner of EnriqueMMusic, has basically made his modules and this to kind of, I don't want to say be forever expanding, but the way they're made is the intention of kind of, they always evolve. Like ever since he's come out with one thing, it's always kind of morphed into something else and this and the next. But this seems so straightforward to be a solid sampler that he really wants to perfect it to be a really, really good personal tiny mini sampler song maker. And why I'm so stoked about this thing is because of its size and functionality of it. It has MIDI input so it can be synced and you can send clock to it, so I can just have it be playback of stems if I wanted, or I can just have it be my drum machine, 16 slices of a bunch of drum stuff, or do some weird drum manipulating things, or I can just have it make my entire song, because it's essentially 16 tracks, right? One little cube or whatever can be one track. I got multiple outputs, and I can just make an entire song on here because it's got patterns, it has a song mode, it has effects, it has envelopes, it has filters. All that stuff I named are so essential when it comes to making a song, and it's all packed into this tiny little thing. And utilizing the touchscreen, pressing record and playing the screen was super responsive, and editing sequences was really fun. The screen is super clear, sharp, it's really easy to read. You have some knobs on the side which are really nice because as soon as you start turning stuff, you see the instant feedback of what's moving, what's doing what. It's laid out so well. It reminds me of my MPC 4000 with the soft buttons. Basically, there's buttons underneath the menu that always do something, and they're lined up perfectly. So it's not this disconnect of the menu over here and then you have buttons over here, and you have to kind of like, I don't want to say do the math because that's like I'm going so far into complaining, but the knobs being over here and the screen being over here, but the knobs represent what the screen is, it's kind of hard to instantly remember what's going where, because I still get messed up on some devices. But having the knob be right next to the value on the screen of what it's going to change is a huge plus for me. I can go on and on about this thing, and I was honestly low-key kind of obsessed about this thing. I was kind of embarrassing myself, but I really enjoyed it. I need one ASAP. They're going to be available May 2019, which is just right around the corner. $5.99. It's a for sure buy for me. I need this thing right now, especially because the whole battery pack thing. I'm so stoked for this thing. So after the black box, the next two things are in no particular order because they have almost nothing to do with one another. This next product's a very special product by IntelliGel, and to me, it's just a tad bit too late, but I'm still probably gonna get one. If you haven't seen my minimalist modular video setup, you like that name, minimalist? Did I coin that? Is that a thing? This case was made for something like that, a really small utility, solid case of just good stuff. Real quick, kind of funny, I overheard Wes from IntelliGel saying that he heard somebody else or saw somebody say that it's a 4.5U case, and I'm totally sticking to that because it's genius. So you get the typical 3U standard that you would in any Eurorack case, but above that you get the IntelliGel standard 1U tiles, a note on that in a second, and then built into the case above that you get 2 buffered molds, so 1 to 4, 1 to 4, a MIDI input and output, as well as a left and right 1/4 inch input or output depending on which 1U tiles you have in your case. It's 62 HP, comes in black or silver. Me personally, I'm gonna get the black one. I think that little IntelliGel logo in that gray is super sleek. It's 46 millimeters deep, so it's still super shallow, but not 4MS pod shallow. You'll actually be able to fit some stuff in here. And in that space, you also have 14 power headers, which is plenty to cover for what you could fit in this case. Okay, so a note about the IntelliGel 1U standard sizing thing. If you're new to the Eurorack world or not, you may have missed it, but a while back, I guess you can say there was a little bit of beef between, I don't know. Basically, long story short, IntelliGel has their own sizing when it comes to 1U. And what this means is you can't go and buy another brand, like let's say Synthrotech, a 1U tile from them, and have it fit in the IntelliGel 1U space. But being completely honest, next to Pulp Logic, I think IntelliGel has the best selection and quality of 1U tiles, so I totally don't mind buying into the IntelliGel standard sizing, because if I get this IntelliGel case, I can basically only buy IntelliGel 1U tiles, but they have so many and they really hit the nail on the head when it comes to what a 1U tile should serve. I can put all my boring modules like utility stuff up there, leaving me more space in my 3U of any brand for voices, effects, filters, and so on. Oh yeah, and this thing will cost you a cool $300 US, which is not bad at all. And from there, I couldn't find much else that was interesting or intriguing. That is until I ventured into the darker side of the hall behind this big booth and I saw the Zoya glowing in all its glory. When I first saw the knobs video of this, I had no idea what was going on, almost to a point of intimidation. And honestly, if you haven't seen his video on it, you should definitely check it out because all his videos are super duper dope. It's like going to the movies and watching some Wes Anderson film or something. Anyway, I saw the Zoya and I thought this was my chance to dig in a bit and figure this puppy out. And it's super simple. Well, simpler than I originally thought in a confusing way, but easy to understand. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. Long story short, you have a grid of pads, and on these pads you load different things like LFOs, envelopes, delays, reverbs, sequences, and on this grid of pad, you connect the dots or pads. So let's say I load an LFO. I can then load a delay, and I can say take the output of the LFO and send it to the delay's speed or the delay's rate, or maybe the delay's feedback amount. So then the LFO is now affecting that. But let's say I load a sequence. I can then take the value of the sequencer's output and set that to the LFO's rate. So you just kind of keep building these blocks of modulation and effects and movement down, and it just kind of keeps going. And all that you're limited to is the amount of CPU usage, which is 100%. Not sure what that maxes out at, but I'm sure it's a lot. So that's really just scratching the surface of this thing. And since the knob video, which was released in, and now the time of this video, which is released in, it's still not out yet, which means they've been adding a lot to it as well as changing things, and I think it's just gonna keep on growing because I was going through the list of things you can add and it's forever. There was things in there I had no idea what it even meant. Alright, so that's my quick wrap up of Synthplex Burbank, the top 3 things that I found most interesting. For sure I need that black box, for sure I need that IntelliGel case. The Zoya, really cool pedal. Not sure if I'm going to buy one because I don't do that much external effects, but if I did want to venture into that world, this kind of seems like a one-stop shop to having basically every effect or being able to make any effect that I've ever wanted. So maybe I will eventually get one, but super interested in them. I have links to all their stuff down below. Be sure to check them out. And yeah, that's really it. Until next week, I guess I'll catch y'all soon. Peace.